Gen Z and Alpha are in the spotlight for looking at anti-aging treatments earlier than any generation before them. The trend is called prejuvenation, and its premise is to slow down the aging process rather than correcting problems later. I'm Annalise Borges, and on this episode of The Stream, we ask, how young is too young to worry about looking old?
So this is an interview with my sister. She's a dude today. She's gonna have a really feminine voice, but she's a dude. And she's closer to Gen Z, so I wanted to interview her about aging. She's on the cusp of millennial Gen Z, right?
Yeah, I'm like a young millennial. I think if been born 2 years later, I would have been Gen
Gen
Z.
Z.
But
Okay.
yeah, but I feel like I relate to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to interview. I'm at Gen X, so and this is what I would look like if I got a lot of plastic surgery at my age. Um, so I chose this filter. And so this is all bullshit aside. Fear of aging with my sister. Okay, so in regards to that clip,
hmm
like as far as like, because I noticed that you are more preemptive, like they were
Yeah.
saying about aging, and like you were getting
Yeah.
like preventative Botox stuff, and I was like, and wearing visors and stuff, and I was like, well, how did she don't even you don't even have wrinkles to even know where the wrinkles would be to do the
Yeah.
preventative, and like your skin's look gorgeous, but I
Thank
thought
you.
it was gorgeous before the Botox. Like I don't even.
Well, I was starting to get some wrinkles. They weren't like deep,
Oh,
but like there
okay.
was like movement that was like creating wrinkles. And so I just got it preventatively.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I think I mean, I feel like younger generations were definitely way more exposed to that stuff. And I
Yeah.
think even in that video, like the Sephora kids,
Yeah.
like that would have been so crazy when I was a kid, like
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
never went to a Sephora until like after college. I
Yeah.
feel like my skincare routine got really intense when I was like 25.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think, nobody can deny that the rise of social media, I think has really contributed to our concern about aging because we're constantly, there's this constant influx of of these unrealistic beauty standards. And people who have these pristine faces that may or may not be filtered, the camera doesn't show you imperfections like
Yeah.
a real, like your eyes do. So I think we're constantly looking at these unrealistic standards of beauty and aging. And
So,
so
so
I think
just
that's part of it.
well, one of the things I experienced like as I'm getting older is a a bias,
Yeah,
like and kind of I don't even know if it's unconscious, maybe it's conscious, but like prejudice, like so even with
for sure. Yeah.
like when I'm job hunting and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like they've got algorithms that try to filter out older people before they even get to know them or what their
Yeah.
skill set is or whatever,
Which
like
is a shame.
which yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff happens. So I guess I can see like growing up in that environment and seeing that happening to older generations, and it's probably terrifying. Like that's gonna happen to you is if you show any signs of
Yeah.
aging. But a lot of it's not based in reality. Like a lot of
Oh,
it's
yeah, I think a lot of it, yeah, I think a lot of it, like what you're describing in those job searches, are based on stereotypes
types. Yeah.
because, I mean, I would be willing to bet that you're more technologically savvy than I am. Like, I would never be able to put together a video like this, and you're 25 years older than me,
Yeah.
right? So I think generally, yeah, like older people tend to be less hip with technology, but it's not a guarantee. So I think it's a
Yeah.
bummer to rule someone out on their age,
Yeah.
just because you make those
Yeah.
assumptions. And yeah, I've talked to my mom a lot about, I think, the bias of, that people encounter when they older, and women
Yeah.
especially, because we
Yeah.
have these very unrealistic standards for
Yeah.
them. And I feel torn because a part of me feels like, okay, I'm gaming the system because I'm like playing along
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
I'm slowing down my aging process by getting Botox. And I think that some of this is, the Botox aside, like I think it's always good to take care of
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and people do
Yeah.
that in different ways. So
Yeah.
like our dad played basketball until he was 70,
Yeah.
some people just eat really healthy. So, yeah. And so I feel torn because part of me feels like, okay, well, I'm not going to let them win because I'm going to like, preserve myself for as long as I can. But also by playing that game, you're feeding into it, right?
Yeah.
Because men are not approaching it in the same way. Like we don't see men. I think when men age, we see that as like, oh,
Wisdom.
yeah, they have
Yeah.
wisdom and maturity, and
Yeah.
obviously
Uh-huh.
we're a little bit more like receptive of them aging than we are of women. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel torn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the thing for me is like, I don't know, maybe it's because I mean, I feel like both my parents care a lot about like presentation, you know, and like my
Yeah.
mom always talked about like presenting well
Mhm.
and like putting your best foot forward and like the way you dress and like the way you take care of yourself. And so it's interesting because I don't wear makeup, you know,
Yeah. Mhm.
because that to me doesn't feel natural. But I get
Yeah.
Botox, which
Yeah.
is not natural
Yeah, I
either.
don't get
So
Botox, but I wear lip gloss.
yeah.
And even though this is a filter, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
And in real life, yeah, without filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely don't feel, I mean, I don't feel like shocked when people are like, oh my God, you get Botox. That's, you know, what I will say though, I think with a lot of cosmetic treatments is that the ones that are badly done do get a lot of attention,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And and so I think that's part of it too, is like you have to make sure you find someone good. Like I was telling you, like I like my Botox lady because I feel
Yeah.
like she says no to me
Yeah.
sometimes. So I know I'm
Yeah.
not gonna walk out of there looking crazy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely go back and forth on it. Like, I don't know that I'll be getting Botox my entire life.
But I mean, well,
Yeah,
sometimes and I'll probably show that in this video, but sometimes like I've seen like people so, I mean, because I remember thinking about like our, you never got to meet our grandmother,
yeah,
but I think about both my grandmothers, and I don't,
yeah,
did you ever get to meet your mom's grandmother?
yeah. And I met Dad's mom, but she was, I mean, I was really small.
Small,
I
yeah,
don't know that we were
yeah.
really having like conversations.
But like I just remember it's like as kids growing up and like people in general, like we love our grandmothers. Like
Yeah,
we don't care that they have wrinkles. Like
yeah,
so this insane fear of this like getting wrinkles and stuff. I just feel like it goes against the natural cycles of
yeah,
like like the our life that
yeah,
like and now we're seeing like women in their 70s that are doing the stuff that's making them look like they're
yeah,
in their 20s and 30s, and it just gives off this really uncanny valley effect.
yeah.
So how far does it go? When
I
does
don't
it not
know.
matter? You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
know
Like,
that's a good question. Yeah. I think for me, probably when I'm like 50, I'll stop caring. I don't know if that's like kind of arbitrary, but um yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, it is because
yeah, 'cause
I do think after a certain age, well, some people stop caring, right?
yeah,
But I think there are people
some
that are
people obviously
still
don't. They're still because they're
getting work done.
getting stuff and making
Yeah.
themselves look really weird. And that was another thing too. Like I've seen actresses in movies where like their faces are so Botox and
Yeah.
filled that I can't even like tell what's going on. Their acting gets totally, it messes with their acting. Like, so they'll look the same when they're picking up their kid, from school in the movie, and they'll look the same when they just found out their husband bashed his mistress's head in the movie. It's just like this, it's just the
Yeah.
same. Like, and I'm like,
I'm surprised that actresses I get the impression, and maybe it's some of the shows that I'm watching, that like actresses don't get as much Botox as like if you talk about, you know, of the population of people that get Botox, I feel
yeah,
like actresses get it less, specifically because of that,
yeah.
because their expression is so important.
Well, I've watched, that's the thing. There's a lot where I've seen, someone with lip fillers and they're in it's supposed to be a dated movie back from the early 1800s,
Yeah,
and like I'm like, there's no way anyone would have lip fillers in the 1800s. So not
yeah,
realistic, right? And I've seen, movies where like you can't tell the emotion going on because it's so frozen and
yeah,
stiff, and I'm like, and it ends up being more distracting, like
yeah,
the it not moving, you can't tell. I mean, and you would think that I think a lot of I think more European and British actors and actresses are like lay low on that
the
kind of
procedures, yeah.
yeah, but I feel like the American
Yeah.
I feel like
It's
they
very popular here.
yeah,
But I definitely feel like it's a trend. Like I feel like
yeah,
over the course of history there's a lot of different beauty trends. Like we
yeah,
used to like different body types come in and out
yeah,
of
uh-huh.
trend, like or trend you know, of fashion. I feel like something now that they're talking about in Hollywood is that a lot of younger actors aren't getting their teeth done.
Oh, I
So
see.
they're
Oh,
just
so
like they're embracing
getting
their
a
natural
natural
set of
teeth.
teeth.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So yeah, I think that we may swing back the other way where people, I think everybody's really into like preserving and that's how I
Yeah.
like to think of it. Like and that's my thing. It's like I don't ever see myself getting fillers or getting a
Hmm.
nose job or anything because I like how my face looked.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So to me, I'm like I'm preserving that. Like I like how
Yeah,
I look.
yeah.
I mean that's definitely, you know, you can rationalize it however you want, but I definitely think it's a trend. I think I'd be curious to see, you know, 20 years from now
Gosh,
if
well,
people are still doing it.
sometimes I wonder if it's something, the people overdoing it. Like I remember my girlfriend's daughter had acne, right?
Yeah,
and and there's a lot of treatments that you can do with acne
Yeah.
that can help mitigate it, and then she was just so desperate to get over the acne that she overdid like this one external exfoliation
Oh,
treatment.
oops. Yeah.
And it was only supposed to do it like once a week or twice a week max. She was doing it
Yeah.
like every day, twice a day, like, and her face got totally red.
Yeah.
She was so, like this. I feel like women are uh, so terrified of any kind of
Yeah.
shows of
Yeah.
that affects their beauty, whatever. But then she ends up that didn't work because she overdid it. Even though I thought if she did it and how she was supposed to do it, it wouldn't
Yeah.
have affected her skin. So she ended up doing Accutane,
Oh,
which is like horrible for you,
yeah.
and just so that she could look
Well,
like,
I think Accutane, if you do it the prescribed amount, like you're not supposed to stay on it forever. I think you're only
yeah,
supposed to stay on it for like 6 months to a year, and it's supposed to like it dries up the
yeah,
oil, and then you're supposed
yeah,
to be good. But it can be dangerous, like if you're trying to get pregnant, um, or and yeah, it's not
yeah.
like a long-term
Yeah,
solution.
yeah. I mean, I just wonder if are there any, even if you use it short term, are there long term
Yeah.
consequences? I don't know. Like these things are so like toxic, but just like why can't teenagers have zits?
Yeah.
why can't people like
But I
people end
think
up looking like this?
But Accutane is not just for like zits. Like Accutane is for like the deep cystic
Oh,
acne that
I see.
like doesn't
She
respond to
didn't
like
have she
topical.
didn't have that.
Okay, yeah,
She
yeah,
had
no,
normal teenage.
yeah,
She did not
dang.
have cystic acne
Oh,
at
yeah,
all.
okay,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because, like I said, like we're constantly exposed to these like ideals. I don't think humans are meant to see
See
that
this,
many
see
faces
this,
and that many people. We're not meant to see our own faces
just
that
that
much.
much. Yeah,
So, yeah, I think it just definitely has warped our like standards and what we want for ourselves. I think it's kind of, I mean, I guess nobody should really be passing judgment because people think it's crazy that I get Botox. People think
yeah,
it's crazy that I travel on the plane with a sun visor,
yeah.
whatever. But I mean, yeah, when I was a kid, we weren't like
I mean,
accidentally
I wear
and
sunscreen,
yeah,
I mean, that's all I've done. I feel like my skin isn't bad considering that's all I've done.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, yeah.
But
And genetics play a role. I
yeah,
think we're lucky that like we'd have dad. Like dad has aged super well, so I
yeah,
think it would be hard for us to not age pretty well at least.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
yeah. I
I feel
think
like I feel like it's annoying because I resent the double standards.
yeah,
I feel like why do guys get to be old and decrepit and we can't? It pisses me off.
yeah,
Like I remember, oh my, I had this my one of my girlfriends, right? She's dating a dude. She's in her 40s, mid
yeah,
40s, and she's dating a dude in his mid 60s. So it's like got 2 decades on her.
yeah,
And he's bald and kind of
yeah,
crepey and like doesn't. I mean, he keeps in shape,
yeah,
but she has like the tiniest little belly, hardly anything.
yeah.
And he was like criticizing her, telling her that she needs to go to the gym, and he's bald and crepey and it's like 2 decades on her, and like, but like
Is
he's
she saying that? She needs to say that to him. Like,
well, I don't think she's too avoidant to say that to
okay,
him, but I'm thinking like what? Like, but I feel like that happens all the time. I've seen it
yeah.
happen to,
The standards of beauty, I think, are very different for men than they are for women. I think
yeah,
a very good example of that is, how we talk about women's bodies after pregnancy, right? There's all
yeah,
this pressure for women to snap back and to look good immediately after they
yeah,
just were pregnant for 9 months or hormones are out of whack. They gave birth to a human.
yeah,
And on the other side of things, we idealize the dad bod, right? So
yeah.
it's fine for men to not be fit when they become parents, but for women, there's all this pressure for them to get back in shape. So I think
But this is what happens. This is women get so freaked out and
yeah, I
terrified.
mean that would be bad work though. But I think the thing is, I think, and that's the thing, and I'm not, I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah,
I think that there are a lot of women that have had work done that we don't realize have had it done because they
yeah,
went to someone who's good.
good. Yeah, that's
Like the
true.
people that look
Yeah,
like this, it's like bad work, which happens.
it
So
happens
yeah,
too much for my comfort. I mean,
yeah,
like, I mean, because
yeah,
it's just you see it. I mean, you see it with these women that if they that are spectacular looking women,
yeah,
are really attractive, and if they just left their faces alone,
yeah.
maybe look older versions of themselves, but way better than some.
Yeah. Well, I think what you see too is that I think a lot of women have some type of body
Dysmorphia?
dysmorphia
Yeah.
physically or their face or whatever it may be. And so
Yeah.
then when you take that and you add in the option to get plastic surgery and to control how your face looks, I think sometimes it gets a little extreme because
They stop recognizing
yeah, well, because we already have these unrealistic standards for
standards. Yeah.
ourselves, and then all of a sudden you get the control to say, "Oh, I want my chin to be like this, or I want my cheeks to be a little more full," and so I think then it really escalates, and that's when you see sometimes women looking unrecognizable
Yeah.
because they're, they don't have a, their pulse on what they really look like is
Like
a little
it's
off.
off. Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, I think about this a lot because I feel like, you know, I don't know, my mom is like is super feminist,
Mhm.
like didn't change her
Mhm.
last name, like never wore makeup, like very like,
But I think she looks good for her
yeah.
age.
No, she does. Yeah, she does. She's
I
taking really
mean,
good care of
she
herself. Yeah.
but and
But
I mean, she's showing signs of aging, but she still looks really good. I don't know. I feel like
yeah,
I feel like it's all conditioning. Really, just like we're
yeah,
conditioned to think it's okay for men to look older and we're
yeah,
fine. I feel like the same could be true for women. It's just our
yeah.
conditioning
No, for sure. Yeah,
is
we have totally different standards. Yeah.
standards. Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is that I think for my mom, as someone who's so like feminist,
Mhm.
she, was not thrilled to know that I was getting Botox.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of I think one of the hardest things about feminism, right? Is like I think the whole idea of feminism is like having this choice and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
deciding when you want to play the game, when you don't, recognizing how you've been subconsciously influenced, how you haven't, right? Like I don't think anybody really escapes these pressures that exist, these expectations
Yeah.
that exist for women. I think no
Yeah.
matter how badly, like we
Yeah.
both have long hair, we wear earrings, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a gendered society,
Society
like this is socially trained thing that we
to
do,
do. Yeah. Shave our
So
legs and
yeah, so
whatnot.
it's like
Yeah.
we all kind of play the game in some ways. Some of us do it more obviously than others, and I think
Yeah.
that's the choice you have to make. Like I don't wear makeup, but
Yeah.
I have injections in my forehead, right? And I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with sunscreen. So
Yeah.
I think we all kind of have to decide, and I think that's like the cool thing. That's like, I mean, that's the cool thing, but I think also the challenging thing about feminism, right? Is like
Yeah.
what are you
Well,
choosing to do and not to do, and like what matters to you, and what standards are you allowing
it,
into your
it,
life
it,
to impose on
for
yourself.
yourself. And some people
So
would question whether that, is really feminism because if, at least with like old school feminism, um, it's kind of like men and women are equal.
mhm,
That's why, which they are equal fundamentally as humans, but they do have differences, right?
yeah,
But that the feminist view would be that men get to be old, so should women.
yeah,
When men get to be not vilified for their aging process,
yeah,
so should women. Like, I mean,
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but and also too, I wonder like some of these things that we get hijacked into believing we need to do. Um, is it freedom really? If we feel like we're trapped and feeling like we have to do that, otherwise we're going to get judged by
yeah,
people that don't even know us and don't could give a
yeah,
shit about us or or and I also noticed that there's different preferences too. Like
yeah.
men have different preferences.
Well, but I think to your point about like what we're getting hijacked into doing, I
Yeah.
think you could say that about a lot of stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like we all have like we have long hair, you and I wear
Mhm.
earrings, like we dress a certain way. Like
Yeah.
I think, I think we have to question all of that
Yeah.
because all of that has been hijacked, right?
Yeah.
Like there's really no reason that we wear dresses and guys don't, or that we
Yeah.
dress a certain way and guys don't, or
Yeah.
that guys
Yeah.
behave a certain
It's all
it's all
conditioning.
conditioned. So
Yeah.
but I agree with what you're saying. I mean, but I think we have to question everything we do because
Yeah.
all of it is conditioning.
Yeah. It's like yeah, I've just noticed that the images that we see we are highly influenced by.
Yeah.
And especially when we see these really well-known
Mhm.
successful actresses or famous people getting this work done,
Yeah.
we think like, oh my God, like, oh, like I know that like the more I've watched or looked at plastic surgery procedures, it makes me like start like not liking my own face. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit,
I think that
maybe I
the
need to do.
crazy thing is that most people are not getting plastic surgery. I think most people are not getting Botox and plastic surgery, but I think it feels like that
Yeah, because it's
because
so much
we're
exposure.
constantly seeing these
Yeah,
images. But I
yeah,
think most people are not, if I'd be willing to guess, I feel like most people are not getting
yeah,
like extreme cosmetic procedures.
yeah. I guess it's
But
true. Yeah, because we do see it like so much.
we're just seeing it often.
Yeah. I don't even know what's real or not real anymore, to be honest with you, as far as like how, statistically, what's happening or not happening, because
Yeah.
we with the people get influenced by what just has the highest exposure, but that's
Yeah.
not really what's happening in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that is like comforting for me is that because I grew up without social media, like,
Yeah.
Instagram and all those things got really popular when I was, I think, in college. And so
Mhm.
I was able to have a lot of my developmental
Yeah.
years without that.
Mhm.
I'm happy that I had that. I mean, it is what it
Yeah.
is. Kids will grow up how they grow up now, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to have had that because I do feel like, I mean, I think nobody escapes the influence of like, what they
Yeah.
see even as adults, but I think it would have been challenging to grow up
Yeah.
constantly,
Constantly
because
exposed.
I feel
Yeah.
like my standards of beauty when I was growing up were just what I was seeing around me,
Yeah.
which, I think obviously, that was more realistic because it was just the people that I was seeing in everyday life,
Yeah.
instead of like these filtered versions of people's and,
Yeah. And
these
the thing,
perfectly curated pictures.
yeah, like and I would like think how are people going to deal with people in real life?
Yeah,
Like if they're like basing things on like their attraction to people based on these curated images, and then they see someone in real
yeah,
life, are they gonna just like that happened to me kind of like I
yeah,
told you about the dude that wanted to pee on me and shit, like
yeah,
the kinked out porn dude, and like the peach fuzz, he was freaking out over peach fuzz like that you can see on my thighs, like
yeah,
that was a difference between what he was seeing in the curated
yeah,
and then what was real life. And it, you know, that's the thing. Like, um, what happens if someone just sees you in real life and you've got a little bit of peach fuzz, like
yeah,
maybe you don't have it now, but as you get older, maybe you'll get
yeah.
that. Or I don't know, like, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like it warps people's
No,
perception.
100%. I think it does. I think
Yeah.
it totally does. Yeah, I don't really have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is on that. I think the problem too is that a lot of people are not like able to like keep that perspective of what like is reality and what's not. And I think that's very hard to do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I have to constantly like take breaks from social media or just remind myself that whatever or people are posting and what's on the internet are like these curated ideal images that they've selected, or like,
Y-
people only post the best picture of the 10 that they put.
Yeah.
So it's
I notice a lot because as a real estate photographer, I work with a lot of brokers,
yeah,
and I notice that the images the brokers have on their card or on their billboards
yeah,
are totally different than what they look like in person. Like they don't
yeah,
look like those
yeah,
images. Like so they have these really curated
yeah,
images. Like so I guess,
yeah,
but it's like when I interact with them in person, it's so different because it's like I'm just interacting with their personality,
yeah,
just this and that. I don't. It doesn't matter to me
yeah,
like that they look like some perfect like whatever. So it's so weird. Like I feel like if our interactions were genuine
yeah,
and we're more focused on like I just don't I just never cared about people having wrinkles and shit, like I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, I guess because I really feel like the overall structure of how we're perceiving each other through the media is all based on sexual attraction,
hmm,
which is such a limited, there's only one small
yeah,
avenue of how you can be attracted to people or whatever.
yeah,
And but all of our looks are based on that, like we have to
yeah,
look like some sex pot or some
yeah.
like hunk or something, or just I don't know, it's so weird.
Yeah, I mean that is a big, I mean humans are shallow in that sense that like I think that we prefer people that are better looking. Like
Yeah,
that's just like a natural
yeah,
human thing. I don't know if that's evolutionary or what it is. So I think that's like, and I think that's something that yeah, where maybe men face a little bit less or in different ways or less harsh, but I think
mhm,
that we all kind of have to deal with that humans prefer people that are attractive,
yeah.
Yeah, I think there was something I read about one time that was I think it was talking about like how cuter babies get more attention
Oh
when they're
yeah, oh
younger, and
yeah,
people
uh-huh.
are people come up to them and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're so cute," and it ends up affecting their personalities
Really.
long term because they're used to people being open and receptive and coming
Yeah,
towards them.
yeah,
And most babies are cute because they're babies, but the
yeah,
idea is that like we
yeah,
respond very differently to people that are
yeah,
attractive.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I think attractive people get away with shit that not less attractive people could not get away with. And so
yeah,
I think people realize that consciously or not, that there's always a kind of this game being played. And I think some of that is just natural human. It's kind of like even animals in the animal kingdom, like, sometimes like it's like the prettiest bird or the bird with
yeah.
like the biggest,
For
brightest feathers is
purpose,
the one that
yeah,
reproduces. So I think some
yeah.
of that is just we can't really
Evolutionary
escape.
biology,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can't escape some of that. And so people have gamed the system to
Well, well, I did the opposite when I was in my 20s and teens and 20s. I was very intimidated
mm,
by any attention I would get from men.
mm,
I found it very aggressive
yeah,
and kind of hostile.
yeah,
Um, and also too, like I tone my stuff way down because like if you look a certain way or you're dressed provocatively or something, you're sending out a signal to everyone and getting attention from men you just do not want to get attention
Yeah.
from.
Well, that's how they
Just
interpret. That's how they interpret it
interpret
as,
it.
oh,
Yeah,
she's sending a signal.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's not.
exact.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're just trying to attract the guy that you want to attract by looking a certain way. So like, and but I just I would be so intimidated. Sometimes it'd be so hostile and so aggressive, and like, or a guy would be like, "Yo, baby," or something, and then I would ignore him and just like, "Fuck you, then, bitch." You know, like it would get
Yeah.
some shit like that. Like, or I'm just like, these mofos are crazy as hell. Like I dressed very masculine. My height helped a lot.
Yeah.
It helped mitigate quite a bit of it,
Yeah.
but I still got too much. Even considering, I'm like, "Oh hell no!" Like, you know. And so
Yeah.
I toned my shit down, like, and and I just was more comfortable that way because I just
Yeah.
didn't want to.
I think a lot of women say that,
Yeah.
right? That they feel like if they dress the way they wanted to,
Yeah.
in a tank top or a lower cut
Yeah.
shirt or a shorter skirt, maybe because it's just hot out and
Yeah.
that's what they like, they get
Yeah.
attention. And I think that that's something that like men need to work on because it's like, I think that, I think this whole idea of the like men have like higher libidos and whatever it may be, it's like women are super like, have very high libidos when they're ovulating,
Yeah.
right? And nobody
Yeah.
is giving women a pass to just be outside harassing men in the street and cheating because and that's an evolutionary thing,
Yeah,
right? That when you're
totally. I
ovulating,
totally noticed
your
that. Like,
body
yeah,
wants to reproduce.
produce.
So
Yeah,
it's looking for mates and
yeah,
it wants to have intercourse because
yeah.
it's that's what your body is
Meant
designed
to
is like
do.
one
Yeah,
of the things that your body is
meant
designed
to
to do.
do. Yeah,
So I think that, to what you were saying about having to tone down your clothing, I think that's on men to reel it in.
yeah. I know. Yeah,
Because I
like
think the same behavior the other way around would not be
we
tolerated.
tolerated.
And
Yeah,
we have conditioned women not to
yeah.
behave in those ways, even though hormonally,
Yeah, totally right. Like women are considered more like slutty or
right,
like a
it gets labeled very
slut
differently.
shaming kind of thing if
Yeah.
you do that. Like, um, yeah. But anyway, I guess like it can go on forever and ever, and it's probably the evolutionary aspects of it are probably. I mean, I don't know. I feel like now technology is changing some of the. It's even messing with like, years, hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
I feel like our perception, like you were saying, we can't accommodate
Yeah.
the amount of images and
Yeah.
bombardment of images we're seeing. We're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
and and also too like the desensitization of sexuality, as
Yeah.
well, because now everything's so pornified, everything's so
Yeah.
hypersexualized, and men are just so saturated with these images that you know
Yeah.
sometimes it makes me wonder why women even bother, because
Yeah.
like um because it's like men just they're so desensitized anymore,
Yeah.
like
Well, I think everybody's desensitized,
yeah,
and I think there are a lot of men that still have a grip on reality and like what a woman, looks like.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, I think we're all kind of desensitized to like what an actual human looks like on a day-to-day basis
yeah.
because we're just constantly seeing these like perfect images
Yeah,
online.
it's almost like it's become that, like that movie Ready Player One, where actual reality is becoming less important
Yeah.
and what we're seeing online is becoming more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Maybe. Yeah.
like reality, we're so distracted in reality, we're either looking at our phones or just preoccupied. We don't even see half the time what's going on around us because we're just so.
Yeah.
And then the real thing is like what's on the phone, how we look,
Yeah.
and all these young women or women in general, getting these surgeries just and putting filters on their face.
Yeah.
Like I've got girlfriends that, like I put exaggerated extreme filters to kind of play with the
Yeah.
idea of it and fuck around with it, But I just see a lot of my friends like that'll have this slight subtle beautifying filter on
Hmm.
like everything they
Yeah.
do, and I'm like, I was like, you don't look like that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing is, they don't look bad in person. So, but they feel like they need to do
Yeah.
this. Um, it's yeah, but that's but they still have to meet people in real life, and
Yeah.
like, people are gonna see what they really look like, and so I don't. It's like weird. It's almost kind of people walking around like this, like no one can see me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. Well, have you gotten any? Do you feel like you've gotten any ageism even at your age?
Um, no, not really. I do feel like no, I don't really feel like I look my age, I think because of genetics.
Yeah.
So no, I feel like if anything I get like what we dealt with Sam where people don't I think speak to me in the way they
Good,
should
because
because they think I'm a child. Like they
yeah,
think I'm like
yeah,
some like 20-year-old who knows nothing and I'm
yeah,
like I've been on my own for 8 9 years
Yeah,
ago, and
yeah,
well, you know, I've been
yeah,
out of college for a long time. So,
yeah,
yeah, no, I don't feel like I get any ageism. Maybe a little bit. Actually, I mean, not really. Even in track, I mean, I think now, especially with women, you're seeing people have careers until they're like 33, 35.
yeah,
And some of that's just undeniable. Like your
yeah,
body doesn't function at the same level when you're 35 as it does when
yeah,
you're 25. Like that's
yeah,
just
yeah,
biology. But no, I feel like I've been lucky that I haven't yet faced that, but
yeah.
I'm sure I will. I mean, I don't think anybody escapes that, you know.
God, this just sucks though, because I just feel like that we're talking about trying to have a merit-based culture. You know,
Yeah,
all these people
yeah,
ridiculing DEI and all this kind of stuff, but
yeah,
they'll age you really quick. You know,
yeah,
like they'll do
yeah,
things that you know. And I don't know. I don't. It's annoying. I'm annoyed, but I don't really. I mean, other than I don't get plastic, I'm too broke to get plastic surgery, too broke to pick my face up anyway. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, you
yeah.
know?
I'm wondering, I am predicting that I think 15 to 20 years from now, we'll see, or even 10, we'll see it swing back in the other direction. I think we'll see a decline in cosmetic procedures and people like embracing their natural features. Because I do think one of the things that is happening now is that everybody is getting the same kind of treatments. And a
Yeah,
lot of women are like
we're
getting
looking the same.
Botox here to like slim their jaw or, you know,
Yeah,
they, or whatever.
yeah,
And so I wonder if, yeah, I wonder if people will kind of, but I think even in some of the cosmetic procedures that you're seeing, people are moving more towards
looking.
natural looking things that are
Yeah,
not really noticeable to the naked eye unless you
yeah,
know the person super,
with
super
well,
well.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that, so I think we're already seeing the movement of people trying to embrace their natural features and maybe just improve them.
yeah.
But I am willing to bet, I think maybe in 15 to 20 years we'll swing back the other way and people will be just,
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know. It's hard to tell. It's
yeah,
hard
and
to
like
tell.
sometimes on a final note, like there's a part of me that kind of hopes that maybe, and people are doing this too, but I think a lot of the work that needs to be done is not necessarily plastic surgery or these external type treatments, but it's
Yeah,
inner work.
for sure.
Like
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it's how people are perceived and stuff, and how we see ourselves. Because I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen a lot of people that don't meet this classical idea of like beauty or youth or whatever, but they've got this inner confidence
Yeah.
and this inner,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I feel like that's not as emphasized as much.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do think that would help a lot.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, I think there's a lot of merit to that, but we
Yeah.
we
Yeah, I think when people are happier internally, they don't really need to fix things on the outside as much
yeah,
because they're at peace and
yeah,
they're, you know, they have everything they need. They're
yeah,
not searching for something. I
yeah,
think that's a lot of it. I think that like a lot of people are, yes, searching for like an unrealistic standard of beauty, but they are searching for these external things that make them happier.
yeah,
Because
and
yeah,
also too,
so
it's like we can only fight it for so long.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
for sure,
like
yeah,
the inner work will last us
yeah,
longer because
yeah,
like anyway, but that's it.
yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for being dealing with your eccentric sister.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. It was a good conversation.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.